Showtime!
Welcome, everyone, to the Rosie and Bill Show. Our guest tonight has written, directed, or produced dozens of feature films, documentaries, television shows, and animated shorts. Now, he does have, don't tell anyone, he's got one minor flaw, but we're going to come back to that a little bit later.
His latest digital series, The Dark, premiered today on the streaming network PUREFLIX, and we are going to have a sneak peek right here on the Rosie and Bill Show. So please welcome writer, producer, director, man who pretty much does it all, Chip Rossetti. Chip, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
This is great. We've been really looking forward to this because, as you know, our mutual friend Kevin Sizemore is in your series, so we can't wait to see it because he's always so fabulous. And watching the trailer has really kind of whet our appetite for this. And congratulations, because this is your biggest release to date. Tell us about the show.
Yeah, we decided, I've been working on The Dark for about 4 years, and we decided late last summer, the summer of 2019, that we were going to move forward with it. And so we shot last year in October and November. We were on set for about 4 weeks. The Dark is a 5-episode end of times miniseries, post-apocalyptic type of thing. It's kind of done in a way that I don't believe most post-apocalyptic end of times types of projects have been done, especially in the Christian genre. We have a tendency to glamorize almost or romanticize the end of times, so as we kind of pull punches so as not to really show it for the way that we truly believe it's going to be. I truly believe the end of times is going to be hell on earth, and that's the way that we attempted to depict it in this series. So basically the concept of it is that it is the tribulation, and there's this band of believers that's basically been hiding out, trying to survive until the second coming of Christ. And situations arise that force them out of their safe haven. And they're forced to kind of go out into the world and face everything that the world has become as a result of this. So it's a dirty, gritty, realistic, at least by my interpretation, look at what the end of times is going to be.
Now, Chip, one thing, our understanding is that these characters from The Dark have kind of been in your mind for several years. So when you saw the finished product, how did the way they looked on screen compare to what you were visualizing in your mind?
Bill, I knew right off the bat. In fact, I was talking with some people today about even at the wrap party that we went to an Olive Garden in the next town over, and we had this big wrap party, and I was telling everybody there, to me, as a writer, it was really unbelievable to see these characters that had been in my head and in my mind for so long be brought to life and be interpreted so closely to the way that I had developed them. And I attribute that to the ability and the skill of the actors that we had. I attribute it to my incredibly talented team and crew that helped to get that stuff onto screen. It was like a huge weight came off of my shoulders, because I felt a lot of pressure for this project just because of the size of it and the scope of it. It was much bigger. I mean, we shot for 4 weeks, which was longer than I've ever shot on any one particular project. We knew it was going to be tough. And so on that last day when we finished and we went out to dinner, like I said, it was like this weight had been lifted off my shoulders, because we told this story that was stuck in my head for 4 years, and it was a story that I felt needed to be told and needed to be out there. And thank God all these people were able to help make that a reality. So it was really great. And then when we got through with the editing process. Like I said, I knew the day we finished that we had something really special. And now I'm super excited that other people are going to get to watch it and experience it. They experience what I knew a year ago.
Well, we can't wait. And I'm always fascinated when, writers talk about the projects they're working on, because it's like you have your choice of what you're going to work on, right? And what is the inspiration? What makes you decide to write an apocalyptic series?
Well, there have been a number of end of times projects that have come out. I just didn't believe that they did a really good job of depicting how horrible of an experience it's going to be, and all the more reason for people to get saved and to not have to go through it. Or, so for me, the Book of Revelation, I think, gives a good foundation of what the end of times is going to be. But at the same time, it's so complex and it's so hard for a lot of people to understand. But it's also, it doesn't pinpoint any one particular thing or any one particular time that this kind of stuff is going to happen. So it kind of left us with a blank canvas of being able to depict the end of times the way that I, as the writer in this case, interpreted it, and that's one of the things that was exciting about it, was there was nobody to say, no, that's wrong, that's not going to happen, because we stuck to the biblical aspect of the Book of Revelations, but we had this sort of free reign of saying, this is how that's going to translate into our modern society when there's no electricity, when there's no medicine, when it's a constant battle to survive, and that's the story that we tried to depict in the dark. And it was, like I said, it was kind of nice having that blank slate, that blank canvas to be able to tell our story.
Well, that makes me nervous, actually, as you're saying that about no medicine, like all those things. It's like I'm getting nervous just like listening to it. So it does sound very realistic. Yeah. So let's take a little peek.
Look at me. Look at me. They're on their way.
Promise me, Peter. Promise me you'll find him.
Peace. All I ever wanted was peace.
It's time to go find Daniel. None of you even know what's out there.
We have to do something.
You're the only one that can get us there. We leave first thing in the morning. How did they know we were here, Jeremy?
What?
5 minutes later, they're right on top of us. How did you know?
We're not leaving him behind.
You don't have a choice, Blake. Neither does he.
We've been expecting you. Peter, father of Daniel, who was in the Keep of the Dark.
I know what's real and what's true. Don't you want what's real?
Only you, Mommy. I want to be with you.
Hey, somebody help us! Hey!
His fear is my joy. His pain will be your pain, and his suffering will be proof.
I want to see my son.
We all want things, Mr. Braxton. This is my time.
Chip, in a word, wow, I have to tell you, that trailer is absolutely phenomenal. And I can only imagine what must have been going on in your mind to have it translate to what we just saw on the screen. Absolutely phenomenal.
And to leave Bill speechless is no small thing. So congratulations, Chip. Earlier you mentioned how much reverence you had for the job that the cast and crew did. What was that process like, putting that all together?
Well, it was this situation where, again, and I've mentioned it before, that I had these characters living in my head for so long that when it came down to casting them, a lot of it came down to the way that I saw them. So when I would look at somebody that would submit my first impression all the time was to look at a headshot that got submitted and said, no, that person doesn't look at all like what I think this person has looked like in my head. I had to kind of get away from that because it really kind of limited the number of people that I could take a look at. So I kind of decided to broaden my own reach a little bit, and then opened it up for a number of auditions. We had, for the 6 principal roles of our protagonists, I think we had somewhere in the vicinity of 1,400 submissions for that. I cast this thing a year and a half ago, and we kind of put the project on hold for a little while and came back, and I recast about 70% of the principal cast. One of the guys that I had cast in one of the lead protagonist roles was Silvio Wolf Bush, who ended up becoming my lead antagonist. So I ended up feeling that he was a better fit for that. So, and then a number of like I said, the majority of our main 6 principal cast members were not the original ones that I cast, because once I was willing and able to broaden my reach a little bit, I found exactly what I was looking for in each of the people that we put into this thing. So, bringing Kevin Sizemore on, one of the things I loved about Kevin, I had reached out to him a long time ago about it. And one of the things that he said when he read all the scripts, he said, these characters are so real. He said, these are the types of characters that I want to portray. So once we were able to make that happen and get Kevin on board, we were able to fit the rest of the characters with the best people that we could get. And I don't regret one of the cast members that we had in this entire project.
Oh, that's always good to know. And Kevin is just so organic with everything that he does. He's such a pleasure to watch and to perform with. If everyone is cohesive like that, I'm sure it's amazing.
Well, he was really able to embrace. In fact, that was what was kind of cool about all of the characters, since a good part of this story is about survival, and it's about being out in the middle of nowhere, basically trying to track down Kevin's character's son. Everybody that we had, well, not everybody, but the majority of the people that we had in these roles are parents, and they understand the importance of what that situation would feel like to them. So the idea of that desperation of going out and trying to find your child when you don't know when they are, it was something that everybody, whether they were parents or not, it was something that everybody was able to embrace. And one of the really cool things about what we did, and I've seen this work in the opposite direction, was since we shot for 4 weeks, we had everybody basically in the same hotel and in the same space for a month. And because we were trying to depict this group of people that had been living together for, we don't know how long, in a little church, basically hiding and trying to survive. Well, in that situation, they would have developed a relationship with one another. So for us, by putting them all into the same hotel where we ate all of our meals, we all hung out at night, they were able to quickly develop that cohesion between one another, so that it came across that much better on screen, because it was like they had known each other a lot longer than they actually had.
Chip, I'd like to just switch gears just a little bit, because, The Dark to me is just incredibly deep and thought-provoking. And you've written another thought-provoking series, The Dream Motel. And in my opinion, it's an absolutely mind-blowing concept that the show is based on. So can you share with our viewers what that concept is and where it came from?
Sure. The Dream Motel, we say, is the Twilight Zone meets Touched by an Angel meets Quantum Leap. And the idea of it is that it's about this motel where people show up for different reasons, accidentally or because they're passing through, something like that. And they're given an opportunity as a result of this man, Jesse, who runs the hotel. And Jesse gives them a chance to go back or go forward and change a decision that they have made or are going to make in their life. And it poses the question, if you had that opportunity, would you be willing to make that change, knowing that it affects everything else you'll do from this point forward, or everything that you had done in the past leading, from when you made that change? I came up with the idea, or I don't believe that I came up with it. I've always said that I think I'm a scribe, and God gives me the ideas. It's just my idea. It's just my job to write them down. But it was in the summer of 2013, and I was driving. I was living in Indiana, and one of my movies had gotten into a film festival in Indianapolis. So I was driving on this road. My family was in the car with me, and everybody was asleep because it was early morning. And we actually passed this little dumpy, closed-up motel on the side of the road called Dream Motel. And over the course of the next hour and a half, I developed the entire storyline and what could happen at the Dream Motel. By the time we got to Indianapolis, before we went into the festival, I sat there in my little notebooks. I always carry notebooks with me. And I wrote down this entire thing. Well, about 3 weeks later, I had been trying to develop this, and I realized that the way I was developing it, it would never end. It would just keep it. There was no ending to this movie, The Dream Motel. So I kind of put it on hold for a little while. And then again, 2 summers ago, I decided to revisit the project. And we were super busy. We had so many things going on that I decided to open it up, to take my concept, the concept of the Dream Motel, and open it up to other writers and to develop it as an episodic. And I ended up getting several submissions from this gentleman named Christian St. John up in Canada. And he said, here's a couple of my ideas. And then he sent me a couple more and a couple more and a couple more. And I said, I'm just going to work with just one other writer on this. And we're going to write as many of these episodes as we can. So we developed about 25 episodes and then went through and basically co-wrote those together, and then narrowed it down to 10 episodes that we wanted to do for season 1. And those are the 10 episodes that we ended up shooting through about 7 months of 2019. And then it released in October of 2020 on PUREFLIX as well. But it's also had an amazing run on Amazon, and it's done great on all the broadcasts. It's in Africa. It's in several different countries as well. So, and we've had nothing but exceptional reviews for it. So we're really excited about it and where it can go in the future as well, because there's a never-ending stream of storylines that we could incorporate into this thing.
You know, Bill used the words thought-provoking, and it really is. As you're talking about that, I'm sitting here thinking, would I change something, a decision, a mistake, whatever, if I could? And so I'm going to throw that back to you, Chip. If you were on an episode of your own series, Dream Motel, would you go back and change something knowing it could affect how your life is right now?
You know, I tell my kids all the time that I would not change one thing that I've done in my life, because everything that I've done, good and bad, has led me to where I am today doing what I'm doing now. And I'll give you the perfect example. The reason that I got into making movies in the first place was, I guess it's going on 10 years ago. My family and I, we had gone to my brother's wedding down in Florida, and we had flown back into Indianapolis, and we were driving home. We had about a 3-hour drive back home, and we got in a horrible car wreck. And my middle daughter, who was 8 at the time, I think, ended up in ICU and had internal bleeding and had to have emergency abdominal surgery. I had busted my head so bad that, because I had I had my seatbelt on, I went over the airbag, over the thing, hit my head on the windshield, and was out cold. My folks, or my family, didn't know if I was alive when this happened because I was out cold. Thank God my oldest daughter and my youngest daughter and my wife got out with a few bumps and bruises. So my middle daughter and I have always had this sort of bond of, we were the ones that got hurt the most. And she asks me, not so much lately, but in the past, she's asked me all the time, do you wish that hadn't happened? And I said, I wish for the injuries and the pain that you went through, I wish that hadn't happened. But had that not happened, I wouldn't have lost my job in advertising, and I wouldn't have been incapable of getting another job, which is what got me to sit down and read the very first script that I had ever written, and feel compelled to go ahead and make that. Because I was stuck in my basement, not able to leave my house or really do anything, I forced myself to read a script that I had written. And about a year later, we were in production on that. And that ended up being my first movie that I shot. And had I not experienced that horrible car wreck, I don't think I'd be sitting here right now talking about The Dark and talking about the Dream Motel and talking about the positive effect that the projects we've done have had on so many people around the world. You can find a silver lining in everything that happens, and that's kind of the direction that's part of the inspiration for the Dream Motel too, is that even the bad can end up in with a good result.
Boy, that reminds me of, again, some of the spiritual studying that I do, and it's like, boy, if you're not on the path you're supposed to be on, God will really find a way to get you there.
He will wake you up. I told somebody else today, they said, what do you think is the underlying message of The Dark if you had to simplify it as much as possible? And I just sort of spit it out, and I said, get your house in order, because one day that house is going to burn down. And if it's not in order, you're going to be left with nothing.
Great points, Chip. And I'll tell you, as you were talking about that story with what happened with that accident and the good and the bad and taking it all, I couldn't help but think that everything happens for a reason. And if you go back and try to change any of those reasons, that ripple effect or whatever, it's just, like I said in the very beginning when I asked you the question, absolutely mind-blowing. Just tremendous, tremendous stuff. So we're going to take a quick break right now because it's time for 60 Seconds with Coach Lombardi. Now, sometimes it may seem like it's a little bit longer than 60 Seconds with Coach, but that's only because she packs so much great information in 60 seconds that it sometimes seems longer because it's impossible to fit all that good stuff in just 1 minute. And when we come back, we're going to ask Chip about his personal litmus tests for taking on the projects that he chooses to take on.
Hey guys, Coach Lombardi here. Did you know that lack of sleep has everything to do with your ability to lose weight? People who don't sleep enough or don't sleep well experience changes in their metabolism and have a really hard time maintaining their weight and losing weight. Here's what the experts say. When you're sleep deprived, your metabolism decreases, your fat deposition goes up, your blood sugar goes up, and guess what? You have weight gain. And this can happen with as little as 2 weeks of sleep deprivation. Look, there's 2 hormones you need to know about, ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin is secreted from the stomach and stimulates appetite. And when you're sleep deprived, ghrelin increases. Leptin is the hormone that gives you that feeling of fullness, and that decreases when you're sleep deprived. This is exactly what you don't want. Hey, here's a hack for a good night's sleep. If you keep your phone near your bed, go to Settings, click on Accessibility, turn off your color filter. This will turn your disruptive blue light emitting screen into a black and white one. But no blue light equals better sleep. Or just put your phone or computer in another room. Hey, I'm Coach Lombardi for the Rosie and Bill Show.
Thank you so much, Coach. We love your tips. I'm still working on the quarantine and quarantine one, but boy, each week they just get better and better. So thank you so much. Chip, we're going to go back to what we said just before Coach's segment about how you determine what projects that you're going to do. What is the litmus test for that?
Yeah, everything that I do, I want to have a positive and redemptive message to it. But I think more importantly, I made a commitment years ago when I decided to get into this that I never wanted to do anything. When I started doing this, my youngest was 3. And I decided that I never wanted to do anything that couldn't be on my television while she was sitting on the floor playing. That didn't necessarily mean that I was going to make things that were always going to appeal to a 3-year-old or 4-year-old or 5-year-old, but I didn't want to have to send them out of the room because something that I did is on TV. I've passed up on more projects than I've done. With as many as I've done, I've passed up on more than I've actually done. Because they didn't fit that mold. They weren't something that I could honestly say to my daughters or to my parents, hey, watch this, I'm proud of this. If I can't do that, then it's not something that I want to be a part of.
Well, that makes complete sense, Chip, that you gravitate toward the genres of faith-based and Christian. But along those lines, you have said that you don't really think that there should be a Christian genre. Why do you feel that way?
I've always considered myself a Christian filmmaker. I don't necessarily think that I need to consider myself a Christian film maker. You know, it's all about where you put those accents. And I think that as believers that are working in the industry, we need to find a way to broaden our reach, and we need to find a way to reach more people. And I think that by putting a label on something, we're immediately sort of limiting who may find what we're doing appealing. And I gave the example of my wife will not watch anything that is considered a horror movie. All right, it doesn't matter what the message is or anything like that. She just automatically assumes she's not going to like it and it's going to scare her. And I think that there's a stigma to a lot of Christian films where people look at it and they say, I don't want to watch it because Christian films are all preaching. So I think by tagging something, by labeling something as a Christian romance or a Christian drama or something like that, that we're immediately limiting who we should be appealing to. And my job as a filmmaker is as a filmmaker that is trying to make the kind of projects that I'm making, my job is to reach as many people as I can with the gospel, to reach not just the people that are inside the walls of the church, but to reach to the people that are outside the walls of the church. And if I immediately label what I'm doing as a Christian faith-based whatever, then that's immediately going to flip a switch in some people's heads. Whether it should or shouldn't is a moot point. It's immediately going to tell people that, or some people are just going to say, well, that's not something I'd be interested in. And then I've lost the opportunity to reach them.
Well, Chip, one story that I was hoping you could share with us, and it's about how you reached people with your films, and it goes back to your first film, Fathers. And you shared with us when we talked on the phone about the night that the film opened, and some things happened at the end of the movie that some folks said to you, and really I think illustrates how you managed to touch people even with your first film. Can you tell us that story and what happened?
Yeah, we had a theatrical premiere for Fathers, which was my first movie, and that would have been in February of 2012, and February or March, something like that. And we had a local theater that we decided to host it in. Fire marshal said we could put 150 people in that theater. We ended up with 162, and then we actually had to turn some people away. And I stayed out in the lobby. I didn't watch the movie because I had seen it so many times, and I was nervous. So I stayed out in the lobby. When the movie was over, I went and I opened the doors to the theater, and I stood there, and I thanked people for coming as they came out. And, you know, I'm 5'10", and I was standing with my back against the door, and I was just thanking people. And this guy came out, and he must have been 6'8", and he was a big guy. And I looked up at him, and he had a tear in his eye, and he said, "Now I know how to be a better dad." And I went to dinner that night with my wife and kids and my parents, and I said to my wife, now I know why I had to make that movie. And if nobody else sees it, it was for that guy right there. And I wanted to quit that movie 3 times. I wanted to give up on it 3 times during the production of it because I knew I didn't know what I was doing. And it was just getting too hard, and I wanted to walk away, but God kept telling me, I'm not done with you yet. You know, and so we were able to finish it. And again, if it didn't have an effect on anyone, but that 6'8", 330-pound guy that had a tear in his eye at the end of it, I knew then why we had to make it. So now I knew why God said, I'm not done with you yet, and why I needed to finish it. It was, if for nobody else, it was for that job.
That's such a great story. And you just never know how things are going to land with people and who you're going to touch.
I have to return that minor flaw because we only have a few seconds left. So in the time we have left, Chip, please, if you could, and it hurts me to say this, share with our viewers who your favorite hockey team is.
Should I share with my favorite hockey team or my least favorite hockey team? Because Because I have always been, in all of my years, and will always be until the day I die, a Pittsburgh Penguins fan.
Oh,
So I know that doesn't go over well with the Philadelphia fans, but
gosh,
yeah,
Chip, we're so sorry. We just ran out of time.
yeah, I kind of figured it.
But no, in all seriousness, we wanna do a separate segment and talk about all of your hockey misgivings. I mean, your hockey team proclivities.
Lots of stories like about that.
You are a very passionate hockey fan. We do know this. So, no, but all kidding aside, we will talk some hockey. And we want to thank you so much for coming on the show, because this has been such a treat. And we congratulate you on all of your triumphs and everything that you've done to get your word and your message out there and entertain people for all these years.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. You know, we can't be more excited about The Dark and about the future of where that series is going, as well as the Dream Motel. And we just think that it's, the sky's the limit for what we can do. And it's opportunities like this to speak with you guys, just to let more people know about what we're doing. We don't have the big, huge marketing budgets that Hollywood films do, so we try to take advantage of every opportunity that we can to spread that message.
Well, and we'll be looking forward, Chip, to bringing you back, because we know that there's actually more to come in terms of The Dark and a second season with Dream Motel. So we're looking forward to getting back together with you and talking about that. But for right now, I want to say to our viewers, just as Chip has done for so many for so long with his fine work, make a difference for someone every day.
And make every day a great day. And check out The Dark on PUREFLIX. We'll see you next week.
Have you ever wished you could go back and undo the mistakes of your past?
I never stopped to really look at all the beauty and wonder that was in my life.
Their belief and their love and their hope is based on faith.
Do you lay awake at night wondering what your life would look like if only you had made different choices?
No!
What about Cassie? Do you think she'll ever forgive me?
Or maybe you would like to get a glimpse of how your future turns out and who you'll become tomorrow. For my guest, all these things and so much more are possible. Welcome to the Dream Motel. Enjoy your stay.